All right, let's take a look at today. What are the best items that you're going to get out of Molten Core? What you should really be striving for if you're doing soft reserve system with your guild. What are the highest priority items that you want to go after between MC and onyxia? So let's go over that. And first off, I want to mention, yes, one of the best options overall, I personally think, is the Shadowcraft set. So the Shadowcraft set is something to really look into. All the research I've done, that 35 energy that you're getting off the 6-piece set can proc so many different things, from poisons to building combo points. Whether you're daggers, whether you're swords, does not matter. The Shadowcraft set is considered one of the better sets overall, and typically has about a 4 to 6% proc rate from everything I've read. There's some different videos out there that really digs deep in the micromanaging of every little detail of this. And realistically, you can buy 3 of them, 3 of the pieces right off the auction house. They're cheap. And then you just need the other 3. If you were going to go with the other 3, I highly recommend getting the chest, the shoulders, and the helmet, and also the gloves. The boots. The reason why is you want to be able to save the gloves and the pants for the Devil Sore to still be able to get that. That's going to carry even through Molten Core, even through onyxia. The only time I personally think that you're going to replace this is when you get BWL full set gear for BWL. Once you have the 8 set for the BWL set, yes, that's when you would replace the Shadowcraft. Now, if you don't want to grind out the dungeons, you just want to go right into raiding, and that's all that you want to do, then in that case, what you actually can do then is yes, you can go with the regular, you can go with the Bloodfang helm, the Bloodfang pants out of MC, and then just kind of build out a couple other, go with essentially the 5 set for the MC build as far as that goes. So the 5 set's not terrible out of MC because it does give you an extra 10 energy. Some people even use that for PvP because you can pull off a lot of different openers that you normally couldn't do if you have that. So I do recommend to still collect it. It has its niche uses overall. I think the Shadowcraft set is a lot better. Not a lot better, but easier to obtain, and not very comparable, if not a little bit better. And we'll look at both swords and daggers overall, because not much really changes, but I'll highlight some of the different things. But looking over everything you're going to get out of MC, the big part, and you're going to carry this forward for a little while, is onyxias. You're going to get the onyxia head, the quest line to be able to get the the neck piece, which is 1% hit, 1% crit. This amulet is very, very nice overall. Like I said, you're going to use this one for a while. Now, for the shoulders, the chest, the boots, the belt, and the gloves, that's the 5 that you're going to use if you're going to go that direction to get the extra 10 energy and go with the MC set gear. Like I said, definitely not a bad direction at all to go with. Now for the bracers, you're going with the bracers of Eclipse. You're going to get this out of Dire Mall. These are pretty good bracers overall. Pretty easy to get as far as that goes. I'll get back to the weapons here in a second, but just like my pre-raid best in slot video, the Hand of Justice is still going to be the best one that you're going to use, even into phase 3, phase 4. You're not going to replace this for a very long time, so I highly recommend getting your butt into BRD and getting your hands on the Hand of Justice. The Black Hand's Breath, so 2%. Crit, this one's very nice and easy to get. You're just going to run lower Blackrock Spire a couple times, and I think upper Blackrock Spire once, and you get the quest out of your major city. Super easy. 2% crit is very nice. You're not going to replace it out of Molten Core. You're still going to use the Tarnished Elven Ring. Now, you could actually swap this one out for, if you're exalted with AV, the Don Julio's Ring, which is 1% crit extra on top of the Elven Ring. But the Elven Ring's super easy to get. You can buy one off someone running a Dire Mall North Tribute run, like a hunter, probably for 30 to 50 gold. So super easy. You could get 2 of them, but ideally what you're gunning for is the Band of Vacuria. 2% hit is huge. At the end of the day, you want to get pretty much as much hit as you possibly can get, because 50% of your damage is going to be abilities, 50% is pretty much going to be just basic white hits with your weapon. So getting to at bare minimum the 9% hit cap, you definitely want, so your abilities aren't missing very often. This one, a lot of other classes are going to be gunning for this. This is off the final boss in MC, so everybody is going to want this one, but this will carry into future phases as well. So this is something I would be highly sought after getting. And I'll talk about a priority towards the end on what items to rank highest on getting. So like I said, the other ones are just really set pieces. The helm and the legs. The legs you're getting off the final boss. Nothing crazy. The helm you're getting off Onyxia. Like I said, you're just getting those because you're getting the 5-piece through the other ones I mentioned. Now the big part, the weapons. Some of the biggest damage you're going to do is through your weapons. Now if you're sword spec'd, now for the weapon, Viscage, the Bloodletter. This one is out of Onyxia. And this is a very good weapon. Now you're not the only one battling for this. Other classes will be battling for this one as well. But out of Onyxia, most of the time you're running it once a week. Sometimes you get lucky, run it twice depending on how it resets. But this one hands down is the best. You can go with the Crawl Blade for a while until you're able to get this one. So you definitely want this one overall, getting out of Onyxia. Your weapons are going to drive most of all of your damage. And then once you get this one, you're going to put, there's a couple different way to go. So you can go Crusaders. Now on here, on this website, I use WoW's Classic. I think they're right most of the time, but there are some variants. From everything I've read, you want to put the Crusader on the slower weapon, which is your offhand's a little bit slower. And then on your main hand, you want to put the +5 weapon damage, which slightly outbeats the Crusaders from everything I've personally read. Let me know if anybody else heard anything different. Double Crusaders, though, is pretty nice when you are, just farming in open world, because it, gives you that chance to actually heal for 75. So the extra little bit of healing does help kind of sustain out while you're open world farming. Brutality Blade, this is you're going to get off Gar and MC. This one is very, very nice as well. There's nothing else that compares to these in MC or Onyxia, so highly recommend getting these ones. Now for the bow. So the Striker's Mark is going to be your best shot to get 1% hit, 22 attack power. Like I said, there's some other alternatives if you can't get your hands on the bow. The pre-raid best in slot, that still gives you the 1% hit. You just lose the 22 attack power, which is, substantial. And let's look at real quick on the daggers. On the daggers, you're going to go with Perdition Blade. This blade is amazing. So this is going to be great. People argue between swords and dagger. What's the best? What does the most PvE damage? Daggers, from everything I've read and kind of tested, daggers have performed a little bit higher overall in the first couple phases. It's just tough to get your hands on these because other classes want these daggers as well. PvP wise, I personally enjoy going dagger spec. I think the burst overall is much more of a fun experience, where swords is more of a stun lock. So it depends on what you're doing. So I would go daggers if I'm doing BGs, because I want to just burst them, go back and viz, get out of there. Where if I'm doing a duel, I want to stun lock them for a very long time, I might go swords. So it depends on what you're doing. But for the daggers, like I said, Perdition Blade, and then you're going with the Core Hound Tooth on there, and like I said, you go with the Crusader. And then here's the Superior Striking, the +5 damage. So I guess I didn't fully look 100%. They're saying, only get the Superior Striking enchant if you go daggers, where if you're swords, you go Crusaders on both. I'll have to double check and really look into that one to see the variance of that. Now, the one mistake I see that they made that I personally would change is that I would replace the Bracers of Eclipse, and that's where I would swap to the set piece to maintain my 5 set for the Rogue. keeping everything else the same if I'm dagger, and the reason why is you can get the aged core leather gloves. Now these gloves, the +5 increase to daggers is massive. So this alone in the weapons is what makes the daggers do a lot more damage, I think, overall in like MC, BWL, and not till your future raids is when, you know, swords kind of outweigh it a little bit more, but they are very close overall. But the aged core gloves, huge. So if I was going to do a priority list, what I personally would do if I was using my soft reserves, okay, so I would go with the Shadowcraft set coming into here, so I don't have to worry about getting the 5-piece or any of these other items. For daggers, though, I specifically would end up going with the aged core leathers with the 5s. Yeah, with the 5 set for the Shadowcraft set, and then you have 1 piece left. So for swords, you would go with the Shadowcraft set for the 6-piece, and then go with the Devil's Sword, and then essentially all I would do for swords is then my highest, where all of my points would go for soft reserve, would be the sword out of Oni, the sword off Gar, and then the ring of Band of Acuria. Those are the 3 that I would be gunning for. After that, I would pick up the onyxia tooth neck piece, and boom, I'm fully geared. That would be the direction I personally went. Those would be the 4 items that I would seriously be gunning for, eventually get the Striker's Mark, but those are the 4 I would be gunning for, and just use this Shadowcraft 6 set and the Devil's Sword. Now for daggers, it's a little bit different. I would use the Shadowcraft set still, and then I would use, instead of going to Devil's Sword, I would use the aged core leather gauntlets, and then basically you have 1 piece to play around with. So then it's what piece do you want as far as that goes. So, you know, probably one of the better slots overall is you'd either go with the helm or the legs, because those are like your future, you know, your M's or BWL items that have a higher stats overall, high agility. I'd probably end up going with the pants, or like I said, or the helm for the Blood Fang as far as that goes, because you're not using it for the set, you're just using it for the abilities. And then as far as priority, I would do the Perdition Blade, the Core Hound, the Aged Gloves. That's my 3. And my 4th would be the Band of Curia. Lastly would be the Amulet. So I love going to Shadowcraft set because there's so many other items you don't have to get. I can get all of that before going into MC, before going into BWL, so I can really target farm these critical items, the weapons, which in the ring that everybody is going to be after. I can put all of my focus into that, and still be very comparable, if not even higher damage with the Shadowcraft set. Please let me know down below what your thoughts are of the Shadowcraft set and some of the items that I went over, maybe some variants that you would do, and why. Love to hear you guys' thoughts, and as always, game on.